Hi guys, it's B. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and this is step back number...
Boss, that's over.
What?
There's no more step back summer.
What do you mean?
It's fall now, or autumn, for some of yous guys.
It is?
We're moving on.
Already? How about I tell everybody what my 10 top books of summer were?
I'll allow it.
Okay, great. So join me, won't you, for not step backs. I can't wait to tell you all about my 10 favorite books of summer 2024.
If we must, we must.
Let's start with one of my favorite authors, Catherine Center, who published this summer a fantastic book called The Rom-Commers. I got the audio arc of this book from Macmillan Audio. The way that she dramatized the story made it even funnier than it was. This is, of course, a rom-com. There is drama too, though. Our heroine, Emma, is taking care of her father, who has a lot of mobility issues. She's dealing with trauma, as well as our hero, Charlie. They're both screenwriters, and she gets the opportunity to help him with a terrible script. She's idolized him forever. Unfortunately, though, he's a big-time curmudgeon and he does not want her around. They unfortunately still get thrust together, but they realize that they recognize some of the same pain in each other, which makes for quite the relationship on the page and off. I found this a fascinating way to learn more about writers and their culture, and how the overarching theme is how the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves can really shape our lives and our relationships. I adored the selflessness, the meditations on love, and the grand gestures. And most favorite of all, this made me think differently about my own life, which I loved. And if you read this one, tell me what you thought. The next book I want to talk about is an historical romance by Kate Bateman. This is book 2 of Her Majesty's Rebels series, which focuses on 3 women who take cases that maybe nobody else would. They're strong, courageous, intelligent, and they get themselves into some messes. I had just as much fun with this book as I did the very first book in the series. And let me tell you, our hero in this one is downright yummy. He is a scoundrel, which normally I don't necessarily go for, but Kate Bateman had me falling so hard for him. It really was a lesson in how to fall for a scoundrel. The title was perfect. So Eleanor Law is our heroine. She is one of Her Majesty's rebels, and she's going to take a case and is aided by someone with kind of a mysterious past or a hidden identity, as we love that trope, right? We've got some insta-lust happening here, which again, I don't tend to go for, but Kate Bateman writes it so well. There's mystery, there's danger, there's dimples galore. What more can you ask for? I was on the edge of my seat. I love the plot twist. I love the tension of the plot, and especially that between our characters. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with this. Here comes something that's going to be one of my favorite reads of the entire year. This is Fated by Sarah Reddy. This is book 3 of the Ghosted series. I have adored each of the books that have been published so far in the series. I also have the arc for the 4th book coming out in October. I can't wait to read it. I just haven't had time yet. And this one is my favorite of the 3 that I've read so far. We have Fiona. She is a workaholic living in Switzerland, and she has decided that love is not in the cards for her. But one day she winds up with a watch that if she holds it while she falls asleep, she dreams of her perfect man. She decides while she's in dreams to just throw caution to the wind and allow herself to feel the love that she would never allow herself to feel in real life. But the problem with dreams is that they end. Or do they? I can't say a whole lot more. If this sounds even remotely interesting to you, please read this book. Sarah Reddy's writing is so fantastic. I also have read many books that give you a beach vibe. I realize now we're heading into fall, but maybe put it on your TBR for next summer if you really like to read seasonally, because this gave me those summer vibes and then some. A lot of this book is set at the beach, and it was just heavenly. I felt like I went to the beach, which I didn't actually do this summer, but I did in this book, so that was fun. There were parts that made me gasp. The love is just so strong. This was beyond exceptional. I love this author and can't wait to see what the next book brings. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Here's one that just came out of absolutely nowhere. I saw this on NetGalley, got the audio arc. This is called The Golden Goal by Anna Conwell. She's a sweet, clean romance writer. I'd never read her before, but I love hockey romance. I'd never read a sweet hockey romance, so I thought, oh my gosh, I need to try this. This, by the way, is book 1 of the More Than a Game series. I also read The Perfect Putt, which is book 2. It wasn't quite as good. It was still good, so if you're interested in sweet sports romances, then I highly recommend this author, especially this book. We have Shaw Daniels, who is our hockey player, who happens to be enemies with Sutton. They were childhood enemies, but now she happens to be the physical therapist for his hockey team. I loved our hero Shaw so very much. He carries a torch for Sutton. It's one of those, he falls first. He's secretly crushing on her forever, and I adored that. Sutton's kind of hard-nosed, but Shaw is the yummiest, most delicious cinnamon roll hero. I ate him up every single page. I loved the caretaking. I still felt this book was steamy despite the fact that it's absolutely clean, sweet romance. I love when they can do that. That's what the good writers can do. You know you've got a good romance writer when they can bring the chemistry without bringing actual spice. And it's riveting and compelling. I love it. I really enjoyed the dual narrators on this as well, although I just talked to one of you guys the other day who said you didn't love the male narrator. I did, but I can understand. The gal definitely does an exceptional job. Let me know if you read it and if you enjoy it. My gosh, I love this book so much. Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. If you read and enjoyed Forget Me Not, which, oh my gosh, I was so gone for that one. When I saw this arc, I immediately requested, and I'm so thankful that they granted it to me because I ate this up. I read it on my Kindle over just a couple of days. I couldn't put it down. This is actually based on Rilo, I think it's called, fan fiction. I don't really follow Star Wars, but for those of you that do, my assumption is you're going to go insane over this couple who is based on Kylo Ren, I think is his name, and the gal's name, who I don't know. Except it's set at the Manhattan Pops, which is an orchestra set in New York City. We have a woman who has tried her whole life to become first chair of the Manhattan Pops, and she finally gets there, only to discover that sitting across from her on that stage is her arch nemesis, Xander Thorne. He's dark, he's broody, he's ridiculously handsome. We get so much spice. Some of the scenes, though I know nothing about music, I still found myself absolutely riveted and not at all lost by the incredible world that Julie Soto creates of intensity. I really got a feel for what it was like to be in an orchestra, what the music does to our characters, how it can be quite the aphrodisiac, I'll say that. It was really intense in the best way and in every kind of way. I enjoyed this so very much. If this seems like your cup of tea at all, read it. You will not be sorry. I am so thankful that Owl City Press reached out to me about Taken by His Sword by Florence A. Bliss. You guys know I've had her on multiple times. I adore this woman. She's fantastic. She's got a great personality and she is a fantastic writer. This is her debut novel. Get ready to get swept away to 17th century France. We've got a handsome, hot-blooded Frenchman who goes on a road trip with our heroine who is a guide. Alex is a fierce woman who can hold her own. She knows how to fight with a sword. Unfortunately, the other thing she's been fighting is a crush on Philippe, who she's been crushing on since she was a girl. But now, you know, many years later, the two of them are forced together and she's decided she's over it, but maybe he's not ready for her to be over it. He's got some growing to do. Again, the book had it all. It was spicy. It was exciting. There was a really compelling mystery I wasn't sure of the answer to. I loved those twists. And I love how similarly in the book I just mentioned, Not Another Love Song, music was sort of foreplay. Well, in this book, fighting is foreplay, which was also ridiculously fun. I love a strong heroine. I love a worshiping hero. We get both of those things in spades in this book. And she writes these emotional love scenes, which is, as you guys know, my catnip. And I can't wait for the next book in the Swords of Chivalry series. You guys know I can't pronounce French. I know she helped me earlier. I still don't know. I can't do it. I'm so sorry. If you followed me at all, you know that I read Ironling in August. I enjoyed it so much. This is book 2 of the Monstrous World series. I actually just had Essie Wendell on my channel the other day, which was so much fun. We talked all about this book as well as other books to come in the series. We get Auric and Sorcha from the first book, Halfling, which is, I gave 6 stars to. We get copious amounts of those cameos, as well as a new couple to fall hard for, Hakon, who is like the most dreamy half-orc you're ever going to find, and Ashley, our heroine, who is neurodivergent and feeling out how to cope with her sensory and emotional cognitive differences while also trying to learn to be the leader of this castle. Hakon is the blacksmith, and the two of them, despite the fact that they are from very different worlds, begin falling for each other. It is extremely spicy, and I loved most of it, but it was a bit much for me, but you guys know how I am. I get through. I loved the world building. As someone who can mostly handle low fantasy, I was proud proud that I was able to figure out what was going on in this high fantasy book. I also am not super into monster romance, but I mean, I read alien romance, so it's very similar. I did find this to be fantastic. He's not all that different. He's got teeny tusks and green skin, and he's large, but essentially those are the only differences. If you're wary of monster romance, I wouldn't let that impede you from reading this book. I think that this one and Halfling both have a lot to offer about what it means to be strong, what it means to grow, how to have compassion for others who may seem like villains. I love how our heroes are such cinnamon rolls. They have such reverence for their mates. It's just fantastic. I can't wait to see S.E. Wendell write more in the future, and I'm already looking forward to Sweetling, which is coming out in November. And many of you asked during the live show as well, we anticipate that the audiobook for Ironling will come out by the end of the year. I am so thankful that Tara of Tara Talks Books approached me and asked if I wanted to start a book club with her. And I said yes, and I didn't even know what it was about. I just love hanging out with Tara so much. And then she said, let's do historical romance. And I said, yes. And then it's built and built and built from there. It's this fabulous book club where you guys actually get to submit books for the club, which we will then vote on. I love that there's so much of a community aspect to this. This book, her Ruthless Duke, this was our first book club book. So of course it's near and dear to my heart. It's the first book of the Rogues Guild series, and it focuses on Virtue, our heroine, and Trevor, our hero. He is a former spy who may still have some enemies, and not only is he fighting them, he's also fighting his very real attraction to his ward, who is 10 years his junior. He tries so hard to fend her off, but it just doesn't work. There is so much chemistry, so much slow burn, although I don't know how slow it is. Maybe it's medium burn, but it's spicy. It's good. I really appreciate it. Again, we got a lot of spice, but it was emotionally deep and moved the plot along, so I was all for it. I found this book so compelling. I could have done with a little more action and a little more of the villain, but still, I had a fabulous time with how our hero especially grows and discovers just how amazing our heroine is. As I said, I love a strong lady. I need to read more of this series. I know some of you already have and that you've enjoyed it very much. Do let me know in the comments if you've read any more in the series and what you thought. So there's a series of books written by different contemporary romance authors called Meant to Be, and each of the books is based on a different Disney fairy tale. Well, I got my hands on Christina Lauren's arc for Tangled Up in You, which is based on, you guessed it, Tangled. It just came out this past summer, and I really enjoyed how it was very closely tied to Tangled. As someone who has a 4-year-old daughter and who's watched the movie Tangled about 1 million times, getting to see it in a more adult perspective was fun. And when I say adult, I don't just mean that there's spice, which there is, but I also really appreciated the real world challenges that were faced by our heroine, who has lived most of her life on a compound. That was how Christina Lauren was able to take this and make it more true to life. Rather than being in a tower, she's in a compound, kind of off the grid with her parents, and they allow her finally to go to college, where she meets our hero, who is like the Flynn Rider of our book. They wind up going on a road trip together. You know how I love my road trips. And he discovers that she's not just some squeaky clean heroine who's obnoxious, but in fact is maybe deeper than he believes. And the growth that happens for him, the way that he finally lets her in and stops being this curmudgeonly grumpity grump, was so much fun. And what a great payoff at the end. It was fascinating. I couldn't wait to see what Christina Lauren was going to do with this story, and I highly recommend it. And last but not least, I read Bridgerton Book 3, An Offer from a Gentleman, which many of you have mentioned is one of your favorites, if not your favorite, Bridgerton. I've only gotten up to book 4 so far. Colin's story. Everybody loves Colin, with good reason. That was interesting. Notice that's not in my top 10. But yes, An Offer from a Gentleman is certainly the one that I've enjoyed so much of the 4 Bridgerton books that I've read so far. This is based on a Cinderella story. Though I didn't always love Benedict Bridgerton and some of his choices, I really found our heroine, Sophie, to be extremely compelling. The things that she overcomes to find her happily ever after, to achieve a found family with the Bridgertons. I found that to be so incredibly sweet. In fact, if you're a Bridgerton expert, which as you know, I've only read the first 4, so maybe I'm not, I feel like you could read book 3 and enjoy it without reading books 1 and 2 of the series. Sometimes I wish that that's what I had done. Well, that was that. I'm so thankful that I got to share my favorite books of the summer with you. I didn't get to do nearly as much reading as I was hoping to do because I was busy with my step X of summer. Kind of time consuming, but in the best way. What did you read this summer that you really loved? Be sure to share it with us in the comments. You know we'd all love to see it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, whether it's something you started this summer or not. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.